Hi guys, I'm Shmi, hello and welcome back to the channel where sadly you join me today to send the Ford GT back home. My tour here in the USA is coming to an end. Today we're up on a 7th floor rooftop, the skyscrapers here in Chicago all around, the Sears Tower is just over behind the buildings there, but today I'm going to be taking the Ford GT over to Chicago O'Hare to board a cargo plane to head back to London. It's been an epic adventure, but this is my last drive with my car here in the USA. To take it today to the airport, but the first mission, as always, is to get the luggage into the car that has no luggage space. Winter here is quickly approaching. It is bitterly cold, I think just above freezing. The skyscrapers though in the morning sunshine, and my room actually was right the way up towards the top up there somewhere, which has been pretty cool. The views have been amazing. But the GT well, it's still looking pretty clean. I actually drove it in the rain last night, so it's got a bit of mess around it. Of course, when it gets back home, it's going to have a complete and thorough detail check over and ensure everything is completely perfect with it. But that's basically luggage that I've been traveling with for the 3 months I've been in the US. A carry-on size trolley bag, a small soft bag, and a backpack as well. And the biggest problem with the GT, I've talked about this many times, is the complete absence of trunk space. Back here, that's all you've got. And of course, I've had to empty out all of my rubbish to send the car back home. It has to be completely kind of empty of any personal possessions or anything that isn't directly connected to the car. But basically, every time I've tried to travel somewhere, I've had to put all of that into the passenger seat. That means if I've got a passenger, there's no room for any luggage anywhere, which is why it spent a lot of the time on transporters to actually make sure it was possible to even get from A to B, because I've been traveling a bit with my girlfriend, a bit with some friends, and if you want 2 people in the car and you've got 2 sets of that lot, it's not going to work. For the moment though, I need to get all of that in there carefully, so I'm going to put my camera down and get it all inside the car. Done, and therein lies the problem. There isn't exactly space for somebody else to join in there. Anyway, let's come round, get the car fired up. Time to take it out for a drive through the streets of Chicago. And by the way, we are literally up on a rooftop at the moment. Can't quite see all the way down to the road, but I think about 7 stories up. So we will get this fired into life, of course with the new sound that it's inherited since I arrived out here in the USA as well. Always need to be quite careful climbing in here. There we go. Bring this into life then. Here we go. It's really cold, but it sounds really good. So at the moment, I did have to top it up. Since I was in Detroit, I did actually fill up the car slightly, I will admit, and then I put $10 in. $10 got me about 3 gallons, and it's actually a little bit too much. I need to get rid of that somehow, although I do have maybe 50 miles to drive. I'm gonna have to watch this as the day goes by and see how it actually ends up. Of course, we've got all of our usual messages popping up there. But basically, it's an early start. It's a very, very cold one. Actually, 9 degrees. It feels much colder than 9 degrees right now. There's definitely quite a wind chill going on. But a short little drive over to my first stop of the day before I go to the airport. Kind of sad times, really. This is it. Checked out. And off we go. This car's going back home. Even though it is very, very cold outside, I'm going to have to grab some sunglasses because it is also rather bright, which is quite enjoyable, at least not leaving in a thunderstorm or anything like that. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more snow. I saw the kind of smallest glimpse of snow while I was here, but alas, we are heading off, handbrake off, into gear, and out we head out of this car park, which is lovely and very tight and narrow, but we will be able to make it. The roads out here in car parks generally are massively better than in Europe, because of course here you have many more SUVs, big pickup trucks, stuff that can't fit through the tiniest of gaps. And I've actually found it quite easy to be able to park this car everywhere that I've gone with it. I haven't really run into trouble or had any major concerns or issues. Of course you have valets at all of the nice hotels, and generally the spaces are decently sized as well. As we go down, G63, there's a Bentayga just over there in front of me. Some nice cars around, so we will head on out. The first stop is not that long a drive, 15 miles or so, just to go meet with somebody, and then onwards we'll head from there. Away we go then, alongside Lake Michigan, some of the skyscrapers over towards the left. And I tell you what, Chicago is quite similar to New York or to San Francisco, because of course loads and loads of really tall buildings, grid kind of set up, and if you don't have a GPS signal, you have no idea where you're going, and it is quite hard to get a GPS signal because of course it can't see the satellites with all of the very tall buildings. Anyway, it's been quite a nice place to visit, less aggressive I would say than New York City, a smaller city obviously, smaller than Manhattan or San Francisco I think as well, but cruising along, it looks to be a lovely day, and there we go, 50 miles empty. I'll need to check my total drive time to see if we're actually going to be able to manage this today. This is actually something really interesting about speed limits here in the US. So the limit on this road is 40. On the GPS I am going precisely 40, but every single person is going past me. Everybody. Like not one car is going this slowly. I don't quite understand it. It makes me look like I'm barely driving, but I'm going the speed limit to the mile per hour right now. Look at this. Everybody. Anyway, that is quite like that all around the US. But we're straight out of the city. I guess that is it. Bye bye Chicago. I can just see Sears Tower behind me. You of course can't, but yeah, onwards. It feels really strange that this is actually coming to an end. After months of driving this car, from New York City, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Road Atlanta, Miami for a while, all the way across the country to Los Angeles, up PCH for fuel run to San Francisco, back down to LA, leaving the car there when I flew back home and then came back out, spent some time around the OC, then going through Death Valley to Las Vegas.
Roadworks reported on the road ahead.
There have been lots of roadworks here. Las Vegas, where did I go after Las Vegas? Well, I've had some flying stops. The car went all the way to Detroit and then here to Chicago. And that's the end. But what a journey it's been. I've got some amazing photos from all of these cities that this car has been to, all of the places it's been. And I mean, honestly, it's just been a trip of a lifetime. And it's not even, I guess, technically over. I've got obviously a flight later on, but we've got this day ahead of us. And dropping the car off at Chicago O'Hare International Airport, one of the biggest airports and busiest airports in the world. Wow, the skyline view behind me. I'm sorry you can't see it, but it's stunning. And that was going to bring the end of the trip, bring the trip to a close. I tell you what, it is looking very pretty with the colours of autumn, the oranges, the browns, the leaves everywhere, but with some stop and go traffic and, well, not moving very quickly, we have definitely lost some range. I've got 12 miles to empty, lots of messages coming in today, about to arrive at my first checkpoint, and then I've got about 20 plus maybe another 25 miles to go, so 45 miles. Gonna need to put some more fuel in the car today. We're not quite gonna get there on this one tank, unfortunately. But in any case, I'm just taking a leisurely stroll. The most important thing at the moment is to get this car safely back home at the end of this trip. And if I've achieved that, I will be very, very, very happy, because doing this many miles, taking it to so many places, there are definitely some risks involved. A risk of, well, I guess just using a car, there always is. But to get it back home in one piece, after this amount of memory and kind of epic times, it couldn't be any better. I have just awkwardly put an entire $8 of fuel into the tank, calculating roughly how much I was going to need. I think that is probably the smallest fill up I've ever done in my life, and the guy looked at me a bit peculiarly, because in a car like this you don't normally just do kind of $8 of fuel. Anyway, now back on the road, at least with enough to get to the airport. Unfortunately, just at a red light, but oh, lift system back down, instantly drops. Yes, hopefully problem averted. Quick checkpoint then, here at Ferrari Lake Forest, also Koenigsegg Chicago. You might have seen that video. The collection is insane. We're gonna get back in the car though to continue the drive over towards O'Hare, just in time I think, just in time to get this on schedule through customs, ready and prepared for the flight. This then is the very last drive of this car on American soil, heading to Chicago O'Hare. We thought about taking the car to New York, back to JFK, to kind of reverse the route that it took to get out here, going back via Amsterdam, but in fact it's going to go from Chicago direct to London. So it flew Amsterdam, New York. Actually, the first time around, it flew from Chicago to Frankfurt, then to London, then to Amsterdam to New York, and then Chicago, this time to London, which is all very, very, very confusing. But it's time for this car to head back to Europe a couple of months after it arrived here in the USA. It's been the craziest of adventures, and this is now the last time I'm driving it, which is I'm a bit sad in a way, but I'm also excited to get it home and to continue the next round of adventures with the car back at home, which might seem strange, but I've done so much with the car that I suspect when I've got it back to the garage and we've done all the things like having it detailed and checked over and maybe serviced again and everything like that, it might see some winter hibernation just to give it a break, and hopefully the Senna will be back, and then the Senna will be usable when the weather is rubbish in the UK, which makes no sense at all. This would be much more sensible of the two cars, but nonetheless, what a trip it's been. I said when I was in Detroit with the car, it's still boggling my mind that this actually happened. It's been an absolute dream for me, a complete and utter kind of departure from reality to be here with my car, driving through, even just looking at this view, you know, American intersections. And I have become very American in my use of terminology. Vacations, intersections, trunks, hoods, all of those kind of things. But all good things have to come to an end, and it's time for this one to do so. So I've got 25 miles, half an hour or so, and that will bring me to the end of the trip. And about 41 miles of range, so we should be able to do this and leave it perfectly empty to say farewell, where I'll then see the car about a week later back in the UK. I can see the airport. We are of course heading to the cargo side, which is completely the opposite of what the signs up above say, because of course those are directed to passengers and normal passenger traffic, as opposed to when you're loading up a car to go on a plane. And yes, that is the ridiculousness of all of this, that this car will be put onto a pallet to be loaded into the belly of a cargo plane, fuel level low, 10 miles empty. I've got this perfect. This is incredible. Into the belly of the cargo plane, and off it will go. It will travel, safely secured down, sideways in a plane, all the way over towards Europe. And I still find that concept insane. Like, it makes no sense that you can send a car to a different place. Of course, I've got all of my paperwork that I had to bring the car in with, which we need to take it out. And we've got all the documents all done through Cars UK and Cars Europe and Cars USA, who have handled it all brilliantly, so a big thanks and shout out to them. Yeah, let's get there and see how it's going to go at this end. Maybe I'll be able to take a camera in, maybe I won't. I won't know really until I'm there and asking in person, and we can see what's possible. This is literally it. This is where I'm going to be parking up my car, and I think it's going to be heading inside into the warehouses to be loaded up correctly, and then I'll be saying farewell. This is crazy, but let's find out where and what I need to do. We've been inside, got all the paperwork done. The car now needs to be taken in where it's going to be loaded up. Not right now, because I actually need to get around towards my flight, but I will jump on board where we are parked in front of actually the tanks with jet fuel to take the car through to the inside where it'll all be lined up. The cargo planes are just over that away, and then it's going to be off. That's basically going to be the end. It is all inside then, looking pretty incredible under the lights here, and we now have the pallet as well that it's going to get loaded on. What's called a 16-foot pallet. I'm going to have to drive the car, reverse it back onto that, where it will then get strapped down and built up, as they call it, before that gets taken away and stored with the car on it, lifted by forklift truck, just like we saw in Amsterdam, which is quite a crazy thing to experience. So I need to do my, I guess, last kind of, 12 meters or so, 10 meters, to get it onto the pallet. All right. Time to get it loaded. And that is my pallet, arriving right in front, which I'm going to drive onto with my whole 10 miles of fuel in just a second. Well, this is it. Bon voyage to the Ford GT. I'm going to see it in about a week or two over in the UK on the pallet. It will get strapped down just like we saw in Amsterdam. Paperwork is all done, photos are all done. A very smooth process, as you can imagine. They've done this more than enough times. In fact, this car has been through this cargo warehouse before, to travel over before I bought it the first time around. Now though, it's time to head back home. We visited its home out here in the USA. Now it's going to visit its home again back in the United Kingdom. I've had the most epic time with this, a journey I'm never going to forget, the adventure of my life, absolute dream, and I want to thank all of you who have come along with me for the ride with the Ford GT here in the USA, bringing the American supercar home for the American supercar road trip. That's it though. Thanks again, guys, and I'll see you back in the UK with the Ford GT very soon. Cheers!